This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeff Mellon. With me, as always, is Mark Souza. Got a lot to talk about in the world of sports today. Obviously, we have the Zion situation going on but actually 30 seconds into the North Carolina Duke game, which was the hype game of the year by far so far. Even I think it was just as hyped as the Super Bowl, to be honest with you, with the ticket prices, of course. And we'll talk about that whole problem with Zion and whether he should have sat out regardless of the injury, before the injury. And then we also have some surprising turmoil in Pittsburgh once again with the GM's comments about Ben Roethlisberger and some other stuff we will get in on, but those are the two main ones. But first things first, Zion has a mild knee sprain after blowing his shoe up, basically, with his powerful legs 34 seconds into the game, was it? Something of that nature?
36
seconds. Mild knee sprain, fortunately for him. He should be fine by draft time with the mild knee sprain. But he also has health insurance in where if he gets picked but after the 16th pick in the NBA draft this year, he will get $8 million on health insurance alone. So he's got a little positive bright side there. But let me ask you. A lot of players and people have said he shouldn't have played the rest of this year. He should have played just a couple of games, and he was already shoo-in for first pick. Do you agree with that? Do you think he should have not even played this year, sat out?
Yeah, I am a big proponent of, if you're a basketball player and people are already talking about you being one of the top picks, I don't think you should play.
I think it was a shoo-in. He was the first pick. I think that was no doubt.
Yeah, so with that being said, man, I don't think he should play another minute of basketball as an amateur. I don't think he should play 1 minute of basketball unpaid for the rest of his life. I really don't, unless it's after he retires from the NBA and he wants to go play at the local gym, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, I would not. I get it. People like their college sports and whatnot, but we have to remember, man, this is amateur sports. College football, college basketball, yeah, it gives you an avenue to compete. It gives you an avenue to showcase your skills. But for a guy like Zion, he has been talked about for years, not just this year. I mean, he's been on those YouTube videos, on those Instagram highlights for a couple of years now, as like the next big thing, right?
The next LeBron James. That's just basically what everyone has said.
And the rules make it as such where he can go overseas, I guess, and play pro basketball for a year, or he can play college basketball. But he cannot go straight to the pros. And with that being said, he's not making any money right now playing for Duke. Yeah, he's got a scholarship, and that's great. And that's great for a lot of people. But for Zion Williamson, that's not great. That's a bad deal for Zion Williamson. If it's a guy, who may or may not be an NBA prospect one day to get a full-ride scholarship to a great university like Duke, that's a really good deal. But when you're already talked about as, dude, you don't even need to play a minute and you're going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA, like, you're a junior in high school, but hey, look, in 2 years you're going to be like the number 1 pick in the NBA. There's no incentive for him to play other than to, I guess, I don't know, show he's a good teammate. I mean, like, and that's, I don't even agree with that sentiment, but, like, what else is there for him to prove at Duke University?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, and then there's what Luka Doncic actually said. Like, there was Donovan Mitchell also said on Twitter, like, these guys are getting none of the money that it is making through the whole ticket sales or anything like that. They're getting no revenue. They should get paid. That's the old NCAA question mark about that. And Luka Doncic just replied with, "Go to Europe and play," which begs the question: Would players be better off playing in Europe and getting drafted through there while getting paid in Europe than just playing in college, not getting paid, and maybe costing themselves millions of dollars?
It's an interesting argument. I think if a player wants to go over there, then they should. But I think it's better that they play college for a year against, I guess, lesser competition. Because if they go to Europe and they don't, I guess, tear it up per se, they might be perceived as not as good, right? They may be perceived as like not ready for the NBA. Maybe not. But in college, a guy like Zion, who is not a developed talent, like the guy still needs to work on a shot. He has other parts of his game that are not great. He gets a chance to just steamroll people every night and show that he's the best prospect in college basketball. If he went over to Europe, he might have a little bit tougher time making an impact on the overall game. He'd still be really good, don't get me wrong, but he's probably not the best player on the team, like for whatever team he's on, because he's playing against guys who are 30 years old, 28 years old, guys that are not only big and strong, but they have a more polished game. Maybe they're not good enough to be a star in the NBA.
Well, there's a lot of college players that are also not going to be stars in the NBA. Also,
sure.
You got to look at that fact. Like this goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I see what Luke is saying. Like he's saying, you can go make money, and you absolutely could. Yeah. And again, that's another avenue that might be best for someone else. But for Zion Williamson, the best thing for him is to not play basketball until he's drafted. That's it. Maybe shoot. Maybe go to the gym and work on your jump shot. Work on your 3-point shot.
Make sure your knee is healthy.
Yeah, I'm not stepping foot on the court. And look, I know that they say it's a mild knee sprain. Okay, I know they say that, but you know what a knee sprain is, right? A knee sprain is a partially torn ligament. That's what a sprained ligament is.
Yeah, and it's mild, which seems to be more than just a casual knee sprain. I guess you can say. Like I'm not sure what
mild,
the levels are.
I think they put the word mild in there to not alarm people, which makes sense, and it could be mild.
So maybe it's not like
a mild knee sprain carries a 2 to 4 week recovery designation if you want to come back and not risk. But even in 4 weeks, that ligament is weakened. And what's in 4 weeks? March Madness.
He's not playing in March Madness. I don't think there's a way.
You think so?
He shouldn't.
I don't. Yeah, should or shouldn't's a different conversation. I think he's going to play. I think Zion Williamson will play this year for sure.
If he doesn't, it's totally understandable, and I would not blame him one bit. Because
I wouldn't play if I was him.
Because if you get injured more in that game, what's the difference between obviously the bonus between the number 1 pick gets and the number, let's say, 10 pick gets? It's massive.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely massive.
So millions of dollars are on the line here.
Look, Zion's going to be the number 1 pick unless he gets a major injury, right? Like we all agree on that.
Yes, obviously. But a mild knee sprain can lead to something more dangerous.
Absolutely.
That's why we're both saying don't play any more basketball until the draft, because you are only hurting yourself, because everyone knows how talented you are. You're a generational talent. And when I mean that, I mean like LeBron was a generational talent and Michael Jordan was a generational talent and so on and so forth. Like, there's only going to be a few of you in a certain generation. And
you don't need to play. I mean, even a guy like Kyrie Irving, he was a number 1 pick. He played 10 games for Duke. Like, he played such a little amount of games. It was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, but the thing is, he knew he was going to be the number 1 pick. Everyone was saying that, and all the mock drafts had him going number 1. So he was like, well, there's no really point in playing if I'm already the highest pick possible. If you're projected number 5, then yeah, you could probably try to get better and try to earn the number 1 pick, quote unquote. But when you're already touted as the number 1 pick and the best player in the draft by far, there's no reason to play. I understand that there's pride in Duke and the legacy that holds behind it. March Madness is this huge thing, and March Madness is huge, no question about it. But money.
You don't get paid to play March Madness.
Money. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree, man. He shouldn't play. He shouldn't play another minute of his life without being paid. But I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play March Madness. I
It's
think
going
what
to
they do,
worry me.
they will sit him out for the ACC tournament. They'll sit him out for all that stuff. But when the games begin, I fully expect that Zion Williamson will be playing for Duke basketball, whether that's right or wrong. Doesn't matter, what we think.
I think
I think it's going to happen,
But I think it's 100% up to him. I don't think.
Oh, yeah. Well, it should be up to him.
I don't think. I hope Coach K doesn't force him into anything, because some coaches do that. And
I'll even go a step further. I don't know how you feel about this, but if I'm RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish, I don't play anymore either. They're top 5 picks. They cannot improve their status.
I mean, in R.J. Barrett without Zion Williamson had 33 points and 13 rebounds. He had a pretty fantastic game, all things considered.
R.J. Barrett's going to be the number 2 pick in the draft. Cam Reddish, now he's the one that could maybe go anywhere from 3 to 6, I could see. But still, he's going to be a top pick.
He did have 27 points, granted. They're probably going to be the top 3 picks. Honestly, that would not surprise me if they all go 1,
I
2,
would
or
be
3.
a little bit surprised if Reddish is the 3rd pick, but he's going to. I think he finishes in the top 5. Yeah, top 5. And you know what?
And it all depends on who gets the number 3 pick as
right.
well.
And when you're top 3, like the difference from 3 to 5 is not big. The difference from 1 to 5 is big, but the difference from 3 to 5, not big.
Bonus, yeah. But with this is like, without Zion, they lost 88-72 pretty handily.
They got destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, that game wasn't close at all.
That's a serious, that, I think, honestly, that puts Zion even at a higher mark than he was originally, because that's how much he's needed on that team.
Yeah, it was the first game that Duke has lost where they have been behind the entire game since 2016.
Yeah.
They gave up 62 points in the paint, which is the most since 1961.
Yeah. And
so
it's
but
serious.
you know what was bigger? I know that we talked about how great Zion is, like as an athlete, and like he throws down incredible dunks. He does incredible things on the offensive end. The dude's a beast defensively because he's such a matchup problem. And right away, North Carolina. So North Carolina is a 3-point shooting college team.
They're a perimeter team.
They were 2 for 20 last night from 3 and still destroyed Duke. And you know why? It's because they dominated.
They had
inside.
because Duke had no presence in the paint. They took so much advantage of Zion not being there. Because if you watch the games when he's in the paint guarding, no one, they do that shoulder post up move. No one can budge Zion. And when you try to shoot over him, he has such a high vertical. There's no way you're going to shoot above him. That's what makes him so special. He's just as good on offense as he's on defense, and that's a rarity nowadays. And so that's why he's so touted, because he's so physical on the defensive side that his offensive side is
you got to credit Roy Williams. He recognized, Zion's out of the game. Now we're just going to attack the paint. 62 points in the paint.
That's smart.
Again, the most since in 50 years in Duke basketball.
Do you remember how good Dwight Howard was during his prime when he was inside the paint, how in defense, no one could budge him? Basically, that's like in the NBA, if Dwight Howard, if you were playing the Magic and Dwight Howard was injured, you'd be like, we're abusing that paint. That's basically what this situation was. When the best defensive player inside is gone, you got to take advantage of that hole. Because regardless who replaces him, I don't care how good he is, there's going to be a hole there just because that's how good Zion is. He has the total package. I can't really explain it better than that.
And, beyond the game last night, we talked about, tickets were being sold for Super Bowl prices. $2,500 was the cheapest ticket you could buy yesterday.
And
a guy went for $10,000.
Yeah, and this is without question the biggest rivalry in college
President
basketball.
Obama was there. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I think Spike Lee was there also. All these celebrities were there.
Such a bummer how Zion, obviously Duke's a good team, and there's more than just Zion, but Zion's the draw, right?
Oh, 100%.
And he gets injured 36 seconds.
I did enjoy the tweets from Obama and the others, wishing him a recovery. Even LeBron tweeted get better and all this stuff. They were understanding and is kind of scared of the situation because everyone was. You saw the fans, they were worried sick when they saw him on the ground. And understandably so. But it's this game is the biggest rivalry in college basketball by far is UNC and Duke.
They play again here in a couple weeks too.
Well, they're in the same conference. That's also why that's such a big thing.
They could play 2 more times because they could meet in the conference tournament
as well as the March Madness tournament.
Well, I think they play another regular season game against each other.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay, I thought you meant okay.
Because usually in the conference you play everybody twice most of the time.
But they could also play each other in March Madness, so you could add another.
Yeah, they could.
That's still another possibility. Well, It all depends on
how good
seeding
is
and
UNC though. Now I think this opens them up
They
to
were
a number
number-
1 seed for the tournament
Yeah,
if they can go ahead and like win the conference and all
They
that.
have to win the conference. That is true. Well, maybe they don't quote unquote have to, but
Duke has what, 4 losses now? 3 losses?
yeah. Well, Duke was number 1 and UNC was number 8 at this. I think UNC moves to the top 5 without question with this win. Maybe not. I would understand some people will be hesitant about putting them in the top 5 because Zion wasn't in the game at all, basically. So
Yeah,
there
but
is
they'll
questions
go in the
about that.
top 5 for
but
sure.
I think this win puts them in the top 5 just because there was still like you said, there's a number 2 overall pick probably in that draft and a top 5 pick in the draft.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, Duke loses the best player in the country, and they just only have the next 2 best players in the country.
Yeah,
like, you know,
it's
okay.
like it's not like Zion's their only player. They have a lot of good talent. It's Duke, obviously.
Yeah,
That's
it's not like Zion's playing at like Ohio University. Like he's playing at Duke, where they have the best recruiting
and
class.
Coach K is arguably the greatest coach of all time.
Yeah, he's arguably the greatest college basketball coach of all time.
You can even put just basketball coach of all time because of his success.
Yeah,
there.
he's
It's
he's
insane.
coached Team USA. I mean,
Yeah.
he's done a lot.
He doesn't really need to be there anymore, all things considered, because he probably has enough money in the world for him, and he's done everything there is to do. But he stays there, and he's probably, and also like just his name recruits guys. Mm-hmm. Like I don't think he needs to talk to people.
This was
anymore.
the 4th time that Duke lost as the number 1 seed against North Carolina.
Well, they do play each other a lot.
They
so
do.
It's
They
not.
do.
It's not like that's.
And they're
rare.
both usually very, very good. So it makes a lot of
Well,
sense that there's a lot of
if
big
they-
games between these 2 teams.
I don't remember the last time one of these teams was not good in the slightest. They're usually extremely good. Like that's just
Yeah,
how it
we've
goes.
seen both of them kind of have like a year or 2 lull where they like
I
are maybe top 25, but they're not like
I think that's also like
dominant.
losing a lot of freshmen to the draft and that kind of scenarios, and just losing a lot
yeah.
of
But
players
then they
like
bounce back really
Yeah.
quickly.
because that's how good their recruiting is. There's nothing but positives about these two guys. Like you said, even if they have a lull, it's not because the team is bad. It's just because they lost their starters to the draft because all their starters are probably draft up prospects.
I don't know what Roy Williams likes more, winning or spray tans.
My God, I was hoping we would talk about that because holy crap.
That guy is.
Like, I thought if he hugged someone, he would have an imprint on the other person. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. He I don't think he's that dark naturally. I just don't.
You're in North Carolina. There's no way you're that natural.
Great. Anyways, yeah, you know,
If their
can we
son-
talk about Nike for a minute? Their stock is way down today because of that. Do you know that?
Stop
He was-
about
that's-
this game?
No, the Nike.
Oh,
Their
Nike.
stock prices because Zion was wearing the Paul George 2.5s.
Oh.
Their stock price is down like huge. Like it hasn't been
Really?
this low in a long time. Yeah, absolutely. Because people are pulling their money out of Nike because that was such a bad image of the Nike shoe exploding.
Oh, I didn't even think about it. Well, I think it's not the shoe itself. I think because Zion's legs are so powerful.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not. I'm
It
not saying
wasn't
anything
like
about
he was-
Nike,
yeah.
but they've actually lost a considerable amount of money in the last
I'm not blaming
24
Zion
hours.
for that.
No,
I
you
think,
can't
yeah.
blame the player. I'm just saying, like,
It's hard to blame
the
the
ripple
shoe as well.
effect of like that.
Well, it's one of those things like it's a 1 in 100 chance. Like sometimes you just put your pivot foot down at a certain point and it hits so hard.
It's
like
incredible
it hits,
how the shoe just disintegrated though. Like it was like
But
all of a sudden
have you
his
seen the man's legs?
it was like the Hulk when the Hulk gets big and like
Rips
like his,
everything?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
like his
absolutely.
foot just like ripped through the shoe.
But,
And like,
like,
oh, that's used to
you
be
know,
a shoe.
there's also like seams in the shoe. And sometimes you hit it at the right point where you just destroy the stitches inside there. You know, it's just like
Do you think that you could destroy a shoe?
not like that. Maybe I could rip a shoe a little bit over time, but I think because his legs could be legally tree trunks.
I was wondering like how many like if we just got like 50 random dudes on the street and like had everybody do
the
like
exact same
side
move.
sprints for
No,
like
just have him do the exact same
like
move he did.
cuts,
just-
cuts
yeah.
and things like that, and see if anybody. Because I'm pretty sure nobody would be able to do it except for some freak athlete like Zion.
Yeah, it's got to be someone that's extreme. Remember there was thing in the 2 years going into this freshman year, he gained 100 pounds, and no way, shape, or form was that fat. That was pure muscle. Like,
So I'm trying to do.
yeah, I don't think that's possible. I think some people are just genetically freaky like that.
I got what's today? Today's Thursday, February the 21st. By April 21st, I'll have 100 pounds of muscle. More. Yeah.
2 months? This guy took 2 years.
Steroids.
You don't think it's actually steroids, do you?
No. I was talking about me, man.
Oh, you're gonna.
I'm not. I don't get drug tested.
Have some kids first, then use the steroids for the side effect purposes. No, just so the side effect purposes doesn't cost you.
But maybe
that.
I want my kids to be huge. You know.
Well, you might not be able to have kids because of those side effects.
Come on, man.
Well, it's true.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
I know, but the side effects.
All I know is summer 2019 is coming up, right? Got to get ripped. Yeah.
That's why I'm doing the Orange Theory stuff 5 days a week.
There you go.
Which is killing me, by the way. I only done 3 days this week, and I'm sore as all hell.
That's good, though. That's some good stuff, man.
Yeah,
we should go to a break. When we come back, we got to talk about, man, the drama in Pittsburgh. There's just when you thought, like...
It was over?
Or just when you thought that, like, oh, everything was dying down a little bit. Nope. We have a new player in the game. A new cast of characters is arising in the Pittsburgh Steelers drama. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the NBA is officially back tonight for the last stretch run as we approach the playoffs. It may be a foregone conclusion who will win the NBA championship, but it's not foregone who will be the 16 teams participating in the playoffs. Will LeBron make the playoffs, or will it be? I don't know. Would that be the first time he didn't make the playoffs if he doesn't this year? Or did he not make it his rookie year?
I think his rookie year he didn't make it. I'll double check.
Regardless, it would be a long time since we had a playoff without LeBron James. Yeah. And then we'll talk about more stuff down the road. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Did you see the Pumas, what they said about the shoe of Zion? He's like, they wouldn't happen in Pumas.
I saw that. Thought that was pretty mean. Thought that was pretty jacked up.
That's just good promoting.
Yeah, my problem with that, man, I mean, I think it's funny, but my problem with that is, like...
He got hurt.
This kid's not getting paid, and he got hurt, and they were, like, kind of making light of the situation. I get it. It's about the shoe. I get all that, but, like... I think the larger scope of that is kind of like foul,
yeah,
you know.
But honestly, if like whoever signs him to a shoe deal, the commercial is just him wearing another brand shoes and them just getting destroyed, and then him putting on the shoes he's signed to.
Mm-hmm.
You have a commercial right there.
Paul George 2.5s, by the way. That's what Zion was.
So
wearing.
does that give Paul George a bad rep too?
Yeah, Paul George, his pocket took a hit yesterday too.
He probably has a lot of stake in that. In Nike.
What do you think about those self-lacing Nikes with the USB charging port?
Okay, that's a little much.
Well, it's because isn't it supposed to tell you like your stats, like how fast you ran, how you can jump?
Use just a smartwatch. Probably
I
cost
don't know,
the same.
man.
It probably costs cheaper to get a smartwatch than those shoes.
Yeah, but can you say Siri, tie my shoes?
Does it actually do that?
Yeah, it ties your shoes.
Oh,
I
just wanted the Nikes that were in Back to the Future 2 that they were selling in like 2015. Remember that they were wearing the power laces and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that shoe. I would buy the crap out of that shoe.
Gotcha. All right, we got to talk about. Let's shift to the NBA real quick, or excuse me, the NFL, not the NBA. We just talked a little bit about the NBA.
Come on, man.
Different sport. Roethlisberger, man. You know what's going on with this? The Pittsburgh Steelers, everyone knows at this point, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, nobody's happy, everybody's mad, blah, 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 blah. But what is going on with the comments from the general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Kevin Colbert, general manager, said that Roethlisberger is the unquestioned leader. He has the freedom to publicly criticize teammates if he sees fit. He's the elder statesman and the Super Bowl winner. If our players are smart, they'd listen to him because he's been there. He's done it. He can tell them, no, guys, what you're doing is, or it's not good enough to do this. Yeah. So he says, again, he follows up with that comment with, I honestly believe that can be a burden on him more often than he'd like to admit because he has to. He's got 52 kids under him, quite honestly. What do you make of these comments, man?
Calling the rest of the team kids is the dumbest thing you could possibly do.
Yeah.
Are you serious, buddy? Do you want everyone to be pissed off? Because no one likes Ben Roethlisberger. That he has never really been a favorite.
I'm tired of this Ben Roethlisberger guy. I'll be honest with you because he has a radio show that he goes on weekly, and he can critique players, and I don't like that. Like, I don't like the fact that he goes out and he says, oh, Juju should have ran it out. He was supposed to do this on that play.
He throws everybody under the bus, doesn't he?
I don't like how Ben Roethlisberger has led this team. And I think it's a bigger problem now because it's one thing if it's just a player, but now we know that this is systemic. The general manager just publicly said that, of course, Roethlisberger has free reign in the Steelers organization. He can say whatever he wants. He can do whatever he wants. And I don't like that because we're not talking about kids, man. We're talking about adults. We're talking about professional athletes. Ben Roethlisberger is not better at his job than Le'Veon Bell is at his or Antonio Brown is at his. So to just sit there and say, oh, our quarterback can do or say whatever he wants and everybody else should listen, I don't like that. And you know what? Everybody got mad at Antonio Brown when he said that Big Ben had an owner's mentality. Everybody's
I
like...
agreed with him. I don't know what everyone else is thinking.
But now it's starting to make sense, and it's starting to make Antonio Brown actually not look like the bad guy anymore.
No, Ben Roethlisberger to me has always been the bad guy because I've seen this happen before where he said earlier this year, the football season that is, and he said, I have earned the right to criticize anybody I want. Roughly what he said.
Yes, he said that.
Are you flipping kidding me?
And he has this show where he
does that. Like, that is disgusting in my opinion. As a quarterback, you don't throw your teammates under the bus. You are the captain. You're supposed to take the hits. You're supposed to be the one they look to for guidance, not the one they talk behind your back and give you the finger.
Yeah,
this
is just for me, man. Like, it's one thing if a player does it, says stuff like this, but these comments by their general manager are just alarming to me.
That is so.
I think
petty.
the Steelers are looking at, like, if I was buying stock or if I was trading stock, I would trade my stock in their franchise. 100%. I would sell it.
It actually kind of disgusts me how he was like okay with the fact that Roethlisberger was talking garbage about his own teammates.
I also wonder if the Steelers are going to get into a Eli Manning situation down the road where like they hold on to Big Ben for too long. They're talking about a contract extension with him.
They're going to do that. It seems the general manager seems to be in love with him. So
yeah, it's kind of weird to say, man. It's kind of weird to say this out loud. I don't think I've ever said this out loud, but I think the Steelers have a really bad culture, which might be the first time I've ever even thought about that because they've always been.
I've always kind of known that,
but they've always been a franchise that's always been on the up and up. They always are winning, but not only just winning, but they always seem to be pretty good personality wise. They have big personalities, but they usually keep them in check. Jerome Bettis was a big personality. He was a really good guy, like a really strong.
I wouldn't say he was a big personality. He was just kind of just.
He was a big. I mean, he was a
trash talker, kind of. But
yeah, he was a talker. Like he has a lot of personality. Mm-hmm. I love Jerome Bettis, by the way. He's one of my favorites. Hines Ward, a great personality, great leader, great presence. I like him as a commentator too. Like he's a guy, but they've always had like a good group of people, like not just football players, I feel like, but the Steelers throughout history have always been one of the best franchises, not just winning Super Bowls, but I don't know, being an example of the rest of the league, I guess.
That's a kind of an if for me, because I've always like kind of had a hunch that there was always problems. Like for the last couple of years, there's been always issues with these teams. And,
yeah, the last couple of years, but
again, with
different
like,
group of players is what I'm saying.
With Hines Ward, some of the players did not really like him as much. If you hear
really,
if you see some interview, maybe it's not players, maybe it's opposing players. I'm not sure how it.
I've never heard anybody say one bad thing about Hines Ward, to be honest with you.
I've heard a couple of things, but these are all just like here and there. It's not like
But he was always known as being a really good team player and a really gritty player. I mean, he was a guy who loved to block for his running backs.
I think
he would do all the dirty work.
I think it was more of like cheap shots to the other team type of thing or something of that nature rather than his own teammates.
Gotcha.
But I think it's more along the lines.
I mean, he was a physical player. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes you'll get caught up in that.
For a quarterback out of college, yes, that is very true. But it's one of these things where Ben Roethlisberger is. If I had to pick a quarterback to lead a team, he's the last guy on my list. I would have Nathan Peterman over him based off his leadership.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, I don't like how Ben has free reign.
Because he's tearing that team apart. It's him.
We also heard yesterday from the GM of the Steelers is they will not use a franchise or a transition tag on Le'Veon Bell. They're going to let him be an unrestricted free agent. So those rumors can be put to rest. Bell will not be a Steeler, most likely.
99.9%.
And Antonio Brown is probably not going to be a Steeler either. We don't know where he's going to land, but we're seeing a changing of the guard for sure in Pittsburgh. I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
Honestly, it's like picking Ben Roethlisberger in this situation over your other players is wrong. Because Ben Roethlisberger is a lot older than these guys, and he's not going to be there forever. And these guys were in the prime of their use, and it's just the wrong time to side with the old quarterback. And as well, no one likes him. I don't use this word often because I think it's sometimes wrong when people use it. But honestly, when I think about it, I think it's perfect for Roethlisberger. He's a cancer.
Yeah, and he's got a questionable past as well, and I think that makes it even harder to look at him as a leader or a mentor.
And then
honestly,
and then he talks trash about other players, but he's done stuff that is extremely like if anyone else was caught with that, they would be cut and never play again on the spot. And he's been not convicted, but he's been accused of that multiple times.
Yeah, so maybe this is why players don't want to play for the Steelers or kind of want out, because they're just tired of him acting like he owns the team or he runs the team.
Well, and the general manager backing him up makes this situation even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should probably take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about NBA back in action. How long have we
talked about this for?
Decent amount of time.
Wow, really? I didn't even think about it like that.
We have a lot to dive into in the NBA, so we will come back and talk about that. Also, a college basketball story regarding Jim Boeheim, which is interesting. We'll do that when we return.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the GSMC Sports podcast. Just finished up with the Ben Roethlisberger Steelers situation. And, if I had to make a guess of what they're going to be like next season, probably, honestly, at the bottom of the AFC North. Maybe it's the Bengals there, but Steelers are going to be right there with them. Just this is how I feel like it's going to go down.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean,
it looks like a downfall.
They are obviously going to make a lot of changes this offseason. If they don't have Le'Veon Bell or Antonio Brown on their roster next year, you're looking at Juju, you're looking at James Conner. Well, there's still talent there, though, and their defense is still pretty good.
The thing is with Smith-Schuster is he had Antonio Brown on the opposite side of him, and that's why he got to make a lot of big plays. But if he's the number one guy, we don't know if he can be the number one guy.
That's true.
I'm not saying he can't be. He can very well. He's very capable, but we don't know that yet.
Mm-hmm. I like Juju. I think he's good.
I've always been a fan of his, so I hope for the best. But it's going to be hard him being the number one guy now. Now he's going to be the one getting double teamed. He's going to be the one looked at on the when the defense looks at tape during the middle of the week going into the game against the Steelers.
Yeah, I think he's good enough to be the number one and still sustain his level of production. In fact, he might be able to have more just because he'll be the focal point. Obviously, if no Antonio Brown is there, he immediately becomes
the number one.
The number one, and he's right there. I know Antonio Brown's the number one receiver, but Juju is right there, and that duo was great. So maybe
that's why the duo was so dangerous, is because you couldn't double team both of them. You had to double team one, and the other guy was going to make the play.
So let's talk about the NBA. The NBA is back.
Sure.
Playoff LeBron activated? Is that a thing? Because according to LeBron, it's a thing.
So does that mean he's black? He's Zero Dark 23 on Twitter? Is that what's happening? No, he's going to go completely dark on Twitter.
That's a good point.
Isn't that what playoff mode is? He just doesn't listen to social media or anything like that. He just goes dark.
The Lakers have the fourth toughest remaining schedule in the NBA, according to ESPN Stats and Information. He says it's been activated, talking about the playoff intensity as the team is set to host the Houston Rockets tonight.
If they do make the playoffs, the Fireball would go, that's all my son right there.
Well, his son's got to play.
Yeah, of course. Never lost, by the way. Do you know that?
I know that he's undefeated.
Yeah, never lost.
At least he tells everybody that.
Yeah, and he could beat Michael Jordan 1-on-1.
And he's got a full head of hair. 8 feet
tall. Never lost.
So, let's see. The Lakers have missed the playoffs for 5 straight years. That's the longest postseason drought in franchise history. I think they'll make the playoffs. I know they have a tough schedule, but man, it
doesn't look too good, does it?
It's LeBron. If he stays healthy, man, he's just going to drag his team to the playoffs like he did with a few times with other teams.
Yeah. I agree with you, but that groin injury puts me in a worry because we've never had him go out for a long period of time like that before. And he's never really been injured per se. He's never had a tear or anything like that. So,
well, he's been good since he's been back. So
yeah, absolutely. But we don't know how healthy he will remain, and that's never been an issue with LeBron. But now it might be an issue.
What if it's not? Do they make the playoffs?
Yes.
Yeah, he says he feels fine as well.
He's not going to say, "Oh God, I'm in pain."
No, but he looks fine.
Yeah.
He when he came back before the All-Star break, and then obviously in the All-Star game, he doesn't look injured. He looks 100%.
Yeah.
So,
and then the main question is will Kuzma be able to perform like he's been performing with those 35, 40-point games he's had in the past, and with the same with Brandon Ingram to maybe consistently help the team. These young guys really need to step up and help LeBron though, because it's going to be very tough for LeBron to be on his own with this tough schedule ahead. I know he's done it in the past, but this might be a taller glass order due to having a heavy Western Conference schedule.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's be honest.
This is a big game tonight. I feel like I know that there's a lot of games left. I'm not saying if they lose this game, their season's over. But look, they're one game under 500. They play a Rockets team who's pretty good right now and getting healthy at the right time.
Harden's pretty good.
But I think that this game is big for the Lakers because The Rockets are a good team, but I also feel like if the Lakers are going to be serious about making the playoffs, they got to win games like this because they're at home. If they were on the road at Houston tonight, I'd be like, yeah, they're probably going to lose.
And also, they need to prove they can beat playoff teams. And also, they have to worry about one thing, that's Harden's 30-point streak still active and him playing arguably the best he's ever played in his career. So that is saying something for a former NBA MVP. And you can easily say Harden's the best player in the NBA right now.
Lonzo Ball's still out. He's expected to miss maybe a couple more weeks. He should be back before the end of the season, though. We'll see what happens there. But I do think it's important for the Lakers' psyche to win. I thought that win against the Celtics that they had a couple weeks ago was big. But then they followed that up with a loss at Atlanta, which was a really terrible way to end the first part of the season. And when they left to the All-Star break, there was some weird stuff in the locker room where an unnamed player said, hey, look around, nobody really cares or something after they lost to the Hawks.
It was more of like a mentality thing, honestly. Like their mentality is not all
yeah.
there. Like,
so I think this game is big for them to get back on track. The Lakers do. We talked about how hard their schedule will be for the remainder of the season, but their next 3 games after the Rockets are the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, and the Pelicans again. So they do kind of have a stretch there where they can get 3 wins. So if they win tonight, they could possibly win 4 in a row. Or maybe they lose and it continues maybe a sluggish start to the last part of their season. But I want to talk about DeMarcus Cousins no longer has a minute restriction in Golden State as he's recovered from his Achilles. He's looked pretty good, but we know he's been restricted on how much he can play. They face the Sacramento Kings tonight. DeMarcus Cousins, I think he's looked like everything the Warriors hoped, right?
Like they didn't need to get any better, and now look at them. They look borderline unstoppable.
It's big, though, for him for the next couple months because he's looking at trying to get a max contract in the offseason.
Yeah, it's basically a audition, if you will.
Yeah.
But
so
yes. And the question is, will the Warriors not lose another game?
They probably will, but it won't be too many.
I'm going to guess. All right, the over-under 2.
What about tonight, though, man? I wonder about the game coming back from the All-Star break. And the Kings are 30-27. They've lost to Golden State 3 times this year, but they've played them tough every time. It's been a really good back and forth between these two teams. Maybe does Golden State suffer a little bit coming back from the All-Star break since they had so many people participate and, they kind of broke away from that mentality for a week or so?
They are pretty comfortable in first place, about 2.5 games, maybe more, or maybe about 2 ahead of Denver Nuggets.
Are we looking at a possible playoff matchup tonight?
I mean, it's possible, but I mean, if the Clippers...
Right now, the odds are that Golden State and Sacramento will face each other in the first round of the playoffs. Isn't that something?
Well, regardless, whoever faces Golden State in the playoffs is going to lose.
Yeah, they're looking at 4 and done.
I'll give them 5. Just
I don't know, man.
I can't even do that, can I? I think they should be happy for just being there because just being there in this era.
I think if the 8 seed, I think if the Kings or the Clippers won one game against the Warriors, they should hang a banner.
And there's also the interesting factoid of they don't have a first round pick this year. The Kings, that is, they have it. The Celtics are taking that pick. And if they make the playoffs, it wouldn't be as big of a deal as losing that pick. I know. I think it's like top 1 protected last time I checked it.
Yeah. Speaking of the,
if they don't make the playoffs and they somehow get the number 1 pick, then they get Zion, I guess. But that's a long test for the Kings. But regardless, if they make the playoffs, then their pick won't be as valuable to the Celtics as it used to be.
Speaking of the Celtics, Gordon Hayward sprained his ankle working out. Just adding to maybe the frustrations that are his rehabilitation season. And, yeah, he's not expected to be out too long, but it sounds like he may miss a game or 2.
Yeah. But,
Boston limped into the All-Star break. And Kyrie Irving was banged up before the All-Star game. So we'll see what happens with the Celtics. We know that the Celtics have had a tough season so far, right? Like, a lot of people expected them to be the best team in the East, and they clearly have not been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, yeah, well, we all thought of this, and then they just turned a blind eye, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things. Like, maybe not turn a blind eye, that's the wrong phrase. They've just underplayed. They underwhelmed everybody because they were supposed to run away with this conference.
Mm-hmm.
And they did anything but run away with this conference.
Yeah.
And honestly, who's running away with it is the two teams, and that's the Raptors and the Bucks.
The Heat and the 76ers play tonight. The 76ers will be without Joel Embiid. He's got a sore knee. But Miami, I think this is a player we forgot about, but Goran Dragic, who's been out since early December, he may make his first appearance since injuring his knee. That's a big addition to their lineup, and it could help the Heat get in the playoffs. They're 26-30 right now, but they are right there. I mean, when you look at the standings, they're tied with Detroit for the last spot. Does Goran Dragic in the equation boost them over possibly Detroit or Charlotte and make Miami a playoff team?
Gosh, with the Eastern Conference, you really just anyone can make the playoffs, huh?
There's really
okay, except for obviously there's obvious exceptions, but when it comes down to it, like you want to look at like the Heat and all that good stuff.
Heat and Orlando are right there looking at Detroit and Charlotte for the last two spots.
Yeah, exactly. Like Orlando's won 5 straight, and I've been loving Orlando, and I can easily see them taking Charlotte or Detroit's spot and Miami as well. And even the Washington Wizards have a small chance, but still a chance nonetheless. They have 24 wins compared to the 7th place Hornets with 27 wins.
Magic also get to start the second part of their season against the Bulls.
Can't really get much better than that for them.
And it's at home.
Yeah, so they could increase their winning streak to 6. They have the second highest winning streak right now, currently active. In front of them is the Toronto Raptors with 6. But if the Magic continue this winning streak against the Bulls, then by the time playoffs start, I can see Orlando taking that 8th spot. And Miami, this is like Dwayne Wade's last run. They could push for a playoff spot for him in theory. And again, the Eastern Conference is, I always hate to bring that up, but it's the easier conference schedules. They're always getting the easier schedules in general. So just Charlotte and Detroit need to step up their game and continue to win. Mm-hmm. They can't slip up because one loss could take them right out of the playoffs.
Unfortunate story that happened last night. Syracuse head coach Jim Boeheim, he was driving on Interstate 690 in Syracuse last night where he apparently hit a pedestrian who was walking across the highway. Sounds like this individual just walked out in front of Jim Boeheim as he was driving, so it doesn't seem like Boeheim did anything wrong or anything like that, but that man unfortunately was killed as a result of the accident. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a sad incident.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, and you never want kind of this stuff to happen, so It just kind of sucks.
Yeah, it sounds like the individual who was killed actually got in an accident where he hit the guardrail, and then he left his vehicle and was walking along the highway and near the vehicle and got hit. So
I actually, there's someone in our, my mom knows someone's, I think it was a son or brother or something, maybe even husband, that did the same thing, tried to go across the highway because his car broke down and got hit on his way. So it's a very unfortunate situation and where that happens because you think the cars aren't going as fast as they are, but they are going from 70 to 80 miles an hour, and you can't really just run across the road like that. And it's very unfortunate that
sounds happens. Like conditions were icy. Also sounds like that both drivers did not have any signs of impairment or anything like that. So it sounds like it was just an unfortunate accident with no wrongdoing, maybe a poor decision by the pedestrian, maybe walking out or a little bit too close to the road. But Jim Boeheim, he's 74 years old. He's been the coach, I feel like, forever for Syracuse. Anyways, anything you'd like to add for the rest of this show?
No, I think I'm good.
That's it.
Actually, hold on. Landon Collins. We got to talk about him. because
You want to talk about Landon Collins?
he emptied his locker room, said his goodbyes to teammates, and it looks like he's basically done with the New York Giants. And someone posted on Twitter that big alerting news when it comes to Landon Collins. He has not emptied out his entire locker room yet. And he responded with, alert, or something like that, like, everything I left in there I do not need.
It is interesting that the New York Giants will let one of the better safeties in the NFL walk, and they still continue to have Eli Manning as their quarterback. And that'll be the last thing that I say on this podcast.
Yes, it will be, because you're done here.
I am done.
It's been fun, man.
My service is over.
Yes. Your
Give
duties.
me do I get like a Purple Heart or something?
You didn't get wounded.
You have to get wounded to get a Purple Heart?
I thought you need to get wounded to get a Purple Heart.
Is it? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. I'll look it up.
No, it's fine. Give me an award.
No.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. It's been a blast.
Yes, thank you for joining us, anyone. I will be here tomorrow. Might not be the same, but I'll do my best to keep him, his memory. You're not dying, but
Maybe I do get a Purple Heart.
I mean, maybe. Do you want a George Washington Heart medal?
Nah. Yeah,
Being wounded,
good.
yes. The Purple Heart is for being wounded, so I need to hurt you in order to give you that award. So it's up to you.
I'm good.
Okay, then. Well, as always, I'm Jeff Manoff, and that was Mark Souza, and I'll see you next time.
Peace.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.